Welcome to Girl Choose Yourself, where we're trading self-doubt for self-trust and settling for soaring. I'm your host, Emer Zone, and together here we're building the confidence to create lives so deliciously bold that they scare us a little. In the best possible way, of course, because life's too damn precious and too short to stay cozy in our comfort zones. It is time to choose ourselves for life so damn fabulous and soulfully fulfilling that we have to keep pinching ourselves to check if we're dreaming. Let's do this. Today, my guest is Nicole Banks, and if you have ever felt like life knocked you down so hard that you weren't sure how or if you could get back up, well, then her story is really going to hit home. After breaking free from a life that really just didn't fit Nicole, she found herself facing some of the hardest challenges of her life. But instead of letting them define her, she rebuilt. And today, Nicole helps women move forward with confidence, purpose, and self-trust after major life transitions. This conversation is about resilience, reinvention, and what it really means to choose yourself when it matters most. Let's dive in. Hello, Nicole. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast finally. How are you today?
I am doing so good. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my story and my insights with your audience. I always appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I'm just know that we're just going to have such an amazing conversation, and it's really going to serve so many people. It kind of blew my mind when we first connected and you began to share with me your powerful journey. We're both 55. We have a lot of life under our belt and really interesting journeys. And I just want to jump in by starting with, this question, like, when did you first get a sense that you were off track or sort of disconnected from yourself? When did that first hit you?
Well, I love this question because I always teach and coach my clients. The first thing is awareness, right? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you doing? What are your action steps? What results are you getting or not getting? And so my first awareness of really being totally disconnected is shortly after my divorce. I was numb. I was frozen. Like, ladies, if you're in the audience and you know this experience, you will hear me out when I say this. Literally frozen. I didn't want to get out of bed. And when I got out of bed, I went right to the couch. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to sleep. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't function. I couldn't put sentences together. I literally was truly frozen, like the word truly frozen. Fear of anything moving forward, sideways, or backwards. I was afraid of the phone ringing. I was afraid of the doorbell, going off. I just did not do anything. And so when you're asking, when was the first, at some point, it becomes hours, and then it becomes days, and those days turn into weeks, and those weeks turn into months, and nothing has changed because nothing has changed. You start to go, what do I need to do to get out of this? So, yeah.
So take us back a little bit, because you're married again now, but this was your first marriage and you come from a very conservative background. So when you entered into your first marriage, there was a feeling of maybe deferring to other people, or other people know best. And you said to me that you felt like it wasn't really fully your choice. You weren't really fully engaged in making that choice for yourself. And that led to this place where you feel then that this isn't for me, or this isn't who I am. This isn't for me.
So I've been married and divorced twice, and I am with a partner of 11 years, and we're not married, but we are happily engaged, and love is good. But let me go back to the first marriage real quick. I was brought up in a household of Jehovah's Witnesses, so very strict religion. And it was my mother's feet both into the religion. My dad toes were in the doorway. Okay. He supported my mom so beautifully in anything she wanted to do towards that. So when I got married for the first time, it really was under my dad's direction, guidance, and shove
Yeah.
to this is the right thing to be doing. This is what you need to be doing. And I went ahead and did it. Just being mindful that when you're brought up in a very strict household, such as I was, when I graduated from high school, there was no drive. The next step is to get married, have kids, be a wife. And I didn't want that. I didn't want that. I never wanted to be a homemaker. I never wanted to be a baby maker. I just didn't want that for myself. And the reality is when I graduated, I said, I'm 18 now. I'm going to Portland. I'm going north. And so I ended up moving to Portland, ended up coming home 8 months later because I found myself pregnant. And the first thing I needed to do was go home. Right.
Yeah.
So under my parents' guidance, once again, I had my baby girl out of wedlock. And my dad happened to know someone who was established in his checkoff list, right? My dad's own, okay, he can provide for her. He has a home, he has cars, he has property, he's stable, he's of the faith, air quote, unair quote. And I walked down the aisle, met and married him within 3 months. And so for the first year, I did the wifely duty of making sure the beds were made and making sure the meals were on time and making sure we had things for his lunches and X, Y, and Z, all the things that were so perfect, right? So
Yeah.
then one night I was laying in bed and I literally just looked at the man I'm laying next to. I don't even know who he is. He was a complete
Mm.
stranger. And,
Wow.
we find ourselves in these situations. There's millions of us that have been there. You're in a situation you don't know how to get out of. You've already walked down
Yeah.
the aisle, right? You're
Yeah.
in this relationship. And so now it's like, okay, what do I need to do? And I felt I owed it to him to communicate, hey, I'm not happy. This is not
Yeah.
working for me. I need something else. So it took me fast forward 4 more years to get out of the relationship. And I got out of the relationship. And when I did that, not only did I break the code of marriage under the eyes of Jehovah's Witnesses, I also did the same thing with the code of church. So I was
Okay.
disfellowshipped from the church, all my friends, all my family, everything. But I decided to say, you know what? There's something else out there. So that's what started the first.
Yeah. And that's a huge transition, that moving into this other phase and going, I have to, well, you were forced because they cut you off, which is that tradition and that environment. And then you have to create for yourself again and kind of find this new pathway. So tell us a little bit about that next kind of important step of finding that for yourself.
It was awesome.
Woohoo!
I had freedom. I didn't have to be anywhere Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday morning, or Sunday morning. I mean, I just felt a freedom, but also came with that freedom, extreme vulnerability. Like I was not street smart. I didn't know, true flirtating of the opposite sex. I didn't know boundaries. I really didn't know. I didn't know celebration of holidays. I didn't know really a lot of things. I almost felt like, yeah, extremely sheltered life, extremely sheltered life. And you can see the other life, through the glass, what it looks like. Oh, they're wearing fashion and, oh, they've got makeup on and, oh, they're getting educated and, all the things. It literally took me by surprise going, wow, this is so cool. Now be mindful that I did
Age
have, yeah, go ahead.
now, Nicole, give us a timeline. What age are you now in this period?
Yeah, I'm just now 25, 26.
And your child is
5.
5. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I put her in school with the help of my parents, helping babysit. I get a podunk job where no one knows me. And I'm loving it. I am absolutely loving the freedom. It just feels amazing. Now, of course, there's controversy every time I pick up or drop off my daughter at my parents' house because they want me to be of the faith. and I'm disfellowshipped and they can't have conversation with me, but through my child, we could have conversation.
Right. That's the
Yeah.
bridge. That's the
Yeah.
bridge.
Yeah, so it was fun. It was fun exploring with new friends and being able to go out. And, my daughter would be at my parents for the weekend, and I got to enjoy a club for the first time, and dancing and, kissing a complete stranger if I wanted to. And, it was just fun. It was just things that we do at that age, typically are done between 18 and 22, not 25 and 26. So it was all very new and very fun. So I ended up getting a job at a dealership, and I ended up meeting someone that was of my choice. And
Right.
he was complicated. And,
Mm-hmm.
I say that he was complicated. He just was going through a divorce. His soon to be ex-wife was pregnant, and he was, so he came with all of that. He had a previous marriage and a daughter, and he was everything that I thought I wanted at the time. He was sexy and smart and witty and fun and adventurous, and it was just new. And I've never
Yeah.
had that before.
Just this young woman in in a whole menu of choices had suddenly been open to you. And it just seemed like, and I'll have some of that, and I'll explore this, and I'll do that. And that you were filling yourself up with this freedom.
Yes, and I absolutely did. And it was just, again, it's one of those things where you think, oh, you're out tramping. The stigma and the stereotype of anybody leaving the congregation is, oh, they've lost their morals, or they're bad people, or they're this and they're that. And in my family's eyes, I was the black sheep. I literally, you're a sinner and you're this. And don't get me wrong, there are listeners that are going to go, yeah, you were. And that's okay too. I'm not afraid of your judgment. It's not my business what you think of me. But the point being is simply this: for myself, I knew I had the ethics and standards and morals, and I was a good person and paying my taxes and stopping at the stop sign and doing all the things. But I had not done this for myself before, and it just felt so amazing. I loved it. I loved it, loved it, loved it.
That's huge, isn't it? Because for so long, you were being told this is the way, this is what's right, this is what's true for you, this is the box that you need to fit into. And then when
Yes.
you chose
Yes.
a different direction and you're beginning to create that for yourself, I just want to applaud you and kind of just acknowledge like how extraordinary that is to be able to embrace that and not to be carrying, the guilt of I left this or I'm choosing something else for myself. I'm really putting myself and kind of, it sounds like you really tapped into yourself and says, this feels good for me. That's enough. Like I deserve this.
Yeah. And I'm not really sure. I'm just being straight up with you. I don't know if I felt the deserving part of it. I just knew
Mm,
that it was new, and I wanted to know for myself. If I
yeah.
stepped out of the religion, is there a lightning bolt that's going to strike me in the parking lot? You know what I mean? And it didn't happen. That didn't happen. I wasn't shunned by normal people, like just coworkers. I was able to establish friends and authentic friends outside of the AKA church. And that was very empowering to me. I love that.
So you then embark on a relationship of your own choice and,
Hmm.
embracing all of this newness, this freedom, this, agency, really having, ownership over your own life and making those decisions and choosing them. And then that took a turn down the line as well. Good for a while. And then there were some realizations. Tell us a little bit about that and what you learned most from that experience.
Well, as you recall, he came, I mentioned the word complicated. And that truly was his title. And to this day, I still hold him as a very complicated person. He is so charming and so fun to be with, and just you feel like, well, of course, being smitten, I've not experienced that before, but I felt like I was really all that he ever dreamed of. Like I was put on a pedestal and just wined and dined, and it just felt amazing. And again, in the beginning, it was exactly that, right? Amazing. And then realization came to me where that gut intuition is something is just not right. Working late hours, shopping for new cologne, buying different colored shirts, and just little things that my gut intuition, lady's intuition, I was listening because she was speaking pretty darn loudly. And so I started to question, are you stepping out of the relationship? Are you cheating on me? And it was always the denial, 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 denial. And I've not been cheated on. I didn't know. I loved him. I loved his
Yeah.
family. I thought this was love. And I'm like, okay, well, he said no, so I'm going to go with it. And reality was, not only did he cheat, he had multiple affairs. It was a continuous thing. So, which of course left me completely devastated and shocked and beyond repair for the longest time.
Yeah. And when you tell us about that moment, that decision point where it became your suspicions, became the reality that was then acknowledged in the relationship. Tell us about that moment, about how it went from suspicion to this is the end of this and you having to choose to exit.
So I mentioned many affairs, and he did have many affairs. And at one point, I received anonymous letter, and I'll always be
Ooh,
grateful for that person. I know, right? Like soap opera, here we come.
I
But I
tell you.
received this anonymous letter saying, "You think he was here, but my wife and I saw his car here. And you need to ask yourself, is this the man you want to live with?" And I just like, and it was literally an anonymous mailed to me
Wow.
with no return address, no signature on it, nothing, just mailed to me in the mail, snail mail. And
So you
yeah,
open the mailbox one morning, in amongst the bills and the other stuff, you're pulling out this kind of, hey, I think your husband might be stepping out with someone else.
absolutely. And of course, then I questioned it, and you put your Columbo hat on and, you're watching what he's doing and you're paying attention and, you're not taking care of yourself by any means. You're doing everything and you become obsessed, right? And at one point, I literally just said, I just need to ask him. I just need to ask him, are you having an affair on us? Are you sleeping with someone else? Were you X, Y, and Z at this place? And again, denial, 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 denial. That particular weekend, we had a trip to Las Vegas planned. And we are sitting across from each other at dinner. And he goes, "What's wrong?" He goes, "I thought you would be happy that we're here at this beautiful resort and we're having a great weekend." I said, "We're not having a great weekend." I said, "Something
Mm,
is not right. I need you to be honest with me. And I'm okay with the decision, yay or nay. I just need to know." And
yeah.
it was at that point that, again, he denied. So I literally just wiped my mouth, set my napkin on the table, and went up to the hotel room. And I got my suitcase out and I was packing my bag to leave. And of course, he followed me, right? Paid the bill and followed me
Right.
up. And we had that conversation. He goes, "Yes, yes, I did. Yes, I was." And I asked him, "Where do we go from here?" And he goes, "Well, where do you want to go?" He goes, "I don't want to lose you." And, it started therapy and it started all the things and it started everything. But this is over a span of almost 8 years of the every 6 to 9 months of having these conversations and me not understanding why we continue to have these conversations because his actions and his words were not aligning. And my trust continued to dwindle. I just literally did not trust him anymore.
So you had these encounters where he would finally admit yes. Then there would be a period of sort of where do we go? We go to therapy, we get some help, we make these efforts to rebuild trust, and then it's just cyclical. It's happening over and over again. So what made the last time the last time?
I was in a place, we were in Bend, Oregon, and my dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. My daughter was a senior in high school. His daughter was a junior in high school. And then his youngest was in seventh grade. And we had a beautiful dinner with some friends. And again, my suspicions were up, and it's Bend, Oregon, dead of winter. And he decides to take the dog for a walk. And he just stepped out of his normal routine. His normal routine is the dog needs to go out. He opens the back slider, lets the dog out. Dog comes back in, all is good. He doesn't get his coat, his hat, his gloves, and walk out the front door with the dog on a leash at, 18 degrees, wind blowing at 23 miles an hour. It just does not happen. I've never seen him do this. So once again, out of character. So I'm doing the dishes and he comes in, takes everything off. The dog settles down. He settles down on the couch. And I noticed his cell phone. He kind of tossed his cell phone up on the counter. And before I knew it, I heard, snoring logs on the couch. And that was my opportunity to like rustle him up and make him go to bed. So he went to bed and I'm doing the dishes. You come into bed? No, I'm going to do the dishes. And he goes, okay, good night, good night. Okay, good night, good night. And while he was sleeping, I could hear him snoring upstairs now. I went to the counter and opened up his turned off phone. And I'm like, hello, red flag. You're turning off your phone. You're taking the dog out for a walk, turning off your phone. I open up the phone and there's a missed text. And the missed text basically says, oh, how did I miss your sexy voice? And then I looked down his phone log and he had called her and she replied with a text. And I just, I'm just like, oh, my heart's racing. My palms are sweaty. I'm like, the room is literally physically spinning. I am nauseous. I'm immediately just like, this is it. This is proof. That's it. It's proof. Right. So
that was the first time you felt like I have verifiable sort of proof now. Your whole body was in reaction to it.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like it was a big sort of enough, no more.
Yeah. And I here's what I did. Okay. I'm going to tell you what I did next. I don't always recommend it, but here's what I did next. I literally sent that person a text from, again, his phone, acting like him. And I said, can I call you? And that person replies, I would love that. Make my night, sweetie. Right? So I immediately call the number and I hear this, hello, like I just woken her up. And I didn't say anything. I don't say anything. I click the phone and I immediately go upstairs. Be mindful it's past midnight. And I wake him up and I say, are you having an affair? With his phone behind my back. Are you having an affair? He goes, it's midnight. What are you doing? What's going on? Are you okay? Answer the question. It's either a yes or a no. And it is so his alarm clock is behind his head and it's like 12:05. And at 12:15, I don't say anything for the longest 10 minutes of my life. And he finally says yes. And I said,
wow. Yep. The power of the pause, isn't it? Ask the question and shut up.
Yeah.
Just wait them out.
Oh, I just, I was beyond. It was just an extreme level of pain and agony that I'm like, now what do I do? Now where do I go? Right.
And that's the point that we're coming back to, that kind of that marriage ending. And then in this kind of feeling of you've now invested years in this relationship. There's kind of a realization that I've been constantly lied to. My gut has been sending me messages and I've tried to listen to them, but it's taken me all this long to finally kind of go, this is unworkable. This isn't a space where I'm sort of received and loved wholly, and this isn't for me.
No. So, as a matter of fact, I truly felt at that point, I'm just like, because the pain was so unbearable, I truly felt, I'm like, you know what? I know for myself that I would even be happier on my own than have to continue to deal with this toxic environment, because it was starting to take a toll on my mental, emotional, and physical well-being. And I started becoming the person that I wouldn't even hang out with. I mean, I wouldn't even invite this person to happy hour. She's paranoid. She has no self-worth. She has no lack of accountability for herself. She's in shock. She's playing Columbo one day. She's psycho thriller killer the next day, or, having thoughts of, what am I doing? And I asked myself, what am I doing? It's
It's
not,
a
yeah,
it's like a life in reaction to the other person. This whole energy system that you're living with and around, and you're in reaction to them, and they're telling you black is white. You can feel a little bit like crazy and begin to doubt yourself at a profound level. And
absolutely.
and then here you are, you depart that, and then you're like, what next? How did you move on from there? What happened when you were in that place of being frozen? I don't know what to do now. I don't know what to do now.
Well, the first thing I truly did is I removed myself from Bend. So he stayed there. Immediately he moved in with her, right?
Wow.
And I vacated our home there and I moved back home and where my daughter was going to school, and because we were in Bend, Oregon for 6 months, and so I moved back to Eugene, and my daughter stayed with my mom. We had just lost my dad to pancreatic cancer, so my dad did pass that summer. So I rented a little condo there, and my daughter moved back with me. We finished out her high school year, and I remember clippets of her high school year, but I don't remember that because I was so frozen. And,
Yeah.
I had started a company for myself and was doing well with it when I was working my company. But, I let everything slide. I just let my health slide, my emotional well being slide, my mental. It was just pure exhaustion, just absolutely exhausted. And, for your listeners that are listening now, and for those that are going, oh, I've been there, it just feels amazing to be on that other side. But when you're going through it, you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You take day by day. You live in such fear and you live in such remorse of, why was I so stupid to stay so long? Or, you
Uh,
know, yeah,
the
or
judgment, the self-judgment. You'll have other
yeah,
people outside who will be judging you. And then there's the who was this version of me that allowed this to happen. And
yeah.
in all of it, you were doing the very best that you could in those circumstances, in those moments. But it does, that self-judgment is really
Yeah. And then, of
toxic.
course, the self guilt too, right? It's like, why couldn't I have been a better wife? Why couldn't I have been a sexier lover? Why couldn't I have been more open to being explorative? Why couldn't I have, made better meals, or, dressed them sharper, or, entertained better, or,
Yeah.
been the, Betty Crocker of life, or the Martha Stewart's of life, and been that perfect idol that he would continue to have desire and want for me. And you do that. You go through this vicious emotional and
Ugh.
mental cycle of, I'm not good enough. I wasn't worthy enough.
Yeah. And then here you are having to recreate life again and remove yourself from that. And what was the rock bottom? Because I know you have a particular story of rock bottom that I want you to share, and a
Yeah.
decision that you made that
Yeah.
what in that place where you were really struggling and you made a poor
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah. So during this time, as the divorce proceedings are happening, and I just truly shut everyone off, friends, family. I just truly isolated, and I talk about the frozen, the freeze, and it was like the igloo. Right? I remember at one point my daughter coming downstairs and saying to me, "Mom, I don't think we have heat. Should we call the landlord?" Well, I hadn't paid any of my bills. I hadn't done anything. I
Wow.
really just did nothing, and
Froze,
just
literally.
totally
Yeah.
frozen,
Just
and
everything is overwhelming.
ever
Everything's overwhelming.
overwhelming. I'm overthinking. I'm not sleeping. I'm not eating. So all the stress is 10,000 fold, right? And one day I happened to be on the couch and I had seen something on TV, and it might have been Dr. Phil, it might have been Oprah, it might have been something, and or someone like that. And I just remember them, the actual show and the actual conversation was just, remember, your actions speak louder than words. What are you doing with your life today? And I looked around, and there's like a pizza box, and there's a Taco Bell wrapper, and there's, an old soda can. And I asked myself, what am I doing with my life? Because I'm at this age where I'm 39. I have a lot of life to live yet. What am I doing with my
Absolutely.
life? What am I doing? So I walked upstairs and into my office, and I just really looked at my office, and I'm like, I have got to get to work. And yet I was in the red. Every which way I looked, I was in the red. And at that time, I had been a treasurer of a nonprofit organization for women businesses. And without missing a penny or crossing a T and dotting the I for 7.5 years, I kept immaculate books. And one day I chose to
Mm,
do something that is beyond my ethics and standards and morals that my parents brought me up with. And I chose to write out my debt into several checks to myself and my business to get me afloat. And so I stole, embezzled
mm,
money from a nonprofit organization that didn't belong to me first and foremost, right? And I tried to get my business floating again and getting back to work. And I hired a maid to come clean the house, and I hired a cook to come and make some healthy choice meals and stocked my refrigerator. And I put my nose to the grindstone and getting back to work and getting out and walking and trying to eat healthy and trying to get some sleep. And I did all the things that I was trying to do and I should have done. Of course, doing this all on my own, I don't hold anybody accountable except for myself. I've always pointed the finger at that particular decision of writing those checks back
yeah.
to me. It's always been me. I've always been accountable for that. So the long of the short story is when the bank had ran into the vice president of the nonprofit organization and was saying, "Oh, we would like to get a hold of your treasurer to see if she would like to switch out the checking account services. There's a particular level of, if you only write so many checks, then it costs you this much a month. And if you write more, then it'll cost you that much." And
Sure.
so she questioned how many checks were coming through. And I mean, just karma or fate have you. Had she not, I don't know where it could have ended. But the reality is that I embezzled $23,000. And by the time I had been caught, I had a balance owing of $9,000. And so because if I'm in my office working, then I'm making it work. I'm making money and being able to take care of everything. I was caught, and the board came over and had a conversation with me and removed me of my duties and gathered all the stuff and basically took it over to the police department. And then a financial private investigator came and spoke with me. And, of course, yes, 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 yes to all of it. And
Hmm.
yeah. And then one day I found myself in open sentencing court with a state awarded prosecutor because I didn't have money. I couldn't afford, someone that would be a been of worthy. But anyway, and that's a little story in itself that, I just felt like I literally, over the 18 months of this all going down, I literally spoke with him twice. And I just was handed to the secretary, to his assistant. I never really got a full gist of all the repercussions in which I created myself. Right. So
Yeah.
I go into open court sentencing, and they sentenced me 54 months for my crime of embezzlement. And I was literally handcuffed right then and there
Yeah.
and stripped of everything right then
Yeah.
and there. Yeah.
That's that's quite the story. And I love how, this was many years ago now, in
Yes.
your story, but obviously a very pivotal time, and making an unwise choice that was contrary to, who you are, and then owning that and seeing the consequences of that. Very, very harsh, as somebody who has a background in law. Um, and we talked about that element of it in detail. But here we're just kind of looking at, that was a decision that you made, and it had these really dramatic consequences for you, which landed you in jail for what turned out to be less than the 54 months, thankfully. But you were in for how long, Nicole? Was it 2 years?
Yeah. So sentenced 54 months. And the one thing, and I'm to this day very grateful that the judge awarded me programs. And
Yeah.
that word programs literally had to be on all of my paperwork, all of my documents. What the programs are for the state of Oregon at the time was a 6-month program where they bring in the, therapists and the counselors, and they have the, the coaching and things like that, a curriculum to help. So they had a drug rehab, they had a mother's kind of program to help young mothers, go through that. They had a cognitive thinking, and my crime fell under the cognitive thinking program. And I don't know if I can say this, but it truly was a mind F. It just, can I cuss? I don't know if I can.
Just the F, just the F.
Perfect. But it really was, I mean, I'm a smart, intelligent woman that lost her way. And, when I walked in, of course, I was stone cold sober. I wasn't doing drugs. I, wasn't doing any things. That 86% of all women incarcerated are drug related. So I wasn't coming down. I wasn't high. I wasn't anything. So for me to go into this cognitive program, I got to see behind the scenes of all the things that were going down. And yes, I there were golden nuggets that I was able to get, but the goal of mine was to get out sooner. And I served 20 months, 16 days and 5 hours.
I like that 16 days and 5 hours, because you would be counting them. And
I
one of
did.
the things that you said, it seems like the programs were the real lifesaver in a way for you, because it began a journey that has just blossomed ever since then, of really beginning to get a much deeper, more profound understanding of yourself, and really growing and healing parts of yourself that has been a process, for years since then. And
Yes.
one of the things that you said to me was, there was something that you would say to yourself at the end of the day when you were incarcerated that would just help you to really get, because I'm sure lots of people who are listening to this would say, oh my God, I feel just like Nicole. I so relate to Nicole and her story. And it's such a dramatic sort of point in her story. I can't imagine how I would have coped. And you really touched into a deep inner strength in yourself to get yourself through that in a really powerful way. Can you just speak a little bit to that, about what you gave to yourself and what you found in yourself in that difficult situation?
One of the things I liked about being in the program, first and foremost, is you're segregated. You're actually removed from the general population. And so the volume was turned down, like the
Okay.
noise was turned down. And I really like that. But every single night, I hope I'm leading to where you want to go with this, but every single night I would ask myself, I would say, win the day. It's not necessarily about anything else. It's not about my future. I can't overthink my future right now because there's so much to think about. You're now a felon. Where are you going to get a job? Where are you going to live? All the things, right? What are people going to say? Those are things that were noises that I had to turn down as well. So we turned down the volume externally, but I had to turn the volume down internally. And I had to ask myself, what can I do every day to win the day? I've got to win the day. So I wake up with the intent, what can I win today? And the things that I could control was my thoughts, because they can't take those away from you. And so so when I would go to bed at night, I would say, what did you do well? And what could you have improved upon? So I wake up and I go, okay, Nick, win the day. Right. And so at night,
I love that. Just what did I do well, and what could I have done better? It's
what could I improve
simple,
upon? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's profound, and it keeps you present and not sort of time traveling in your head. It's
Yeah.
about
Right now.
now,
Right
all
now.
we have, because I'll get lost and go spinning. I let everything else control me. And it
Yeah.
reminds me of that. Do you know that Viktor Frankl quote? That in any circumstances, the last freedom is your freedom in how you respond to your circumstances. And it sounds what you did is very much tapping into that. I'm going to choose my response in any
Yes.
circumstance. And that's the power that
Yes.
I have, even incarcerated.
Absolutely. Because again, the only thing that they leave you with, right? You are stripped of everything, my friend. And I mean everything. Your over the shoulder boulder holder support, right? You have no bras. The bras are from like 1940.
Oh
You
my
have,
God.
I'm not
But
kidding.
oh my God.
Right. And you get nothing. You get no choice. You get no, I mean, you don't even get to choose when you wake up. You don't even get to choose what you sleep on. You don't get to choose your fabrics. You choose nothing. The only thing you control are your thoughts. So there's two options, right? And there's a lot of women in these facilities that suffer from these two options. Anxiety, which we know is stressing about the outcome of the future, right? What if, what's going to happen and that stuff. And then depression, which is about the past, shoulda, woulda, coulda, if I would have only, but, all of those. But when you win the day, what did I do well today? And what could I have improved upon? You're present. You're right there in the moment. And it didn't allow me to boohoo about the past and well, what got me here, but it allowed me to go, you know what? How did I win the day? I stayed positive in a pretty dumpy place.
Difficult. Yeah. And it's like, it's the essence of choosing yourself right there. It's kind of like, I am going to survive this. I am going to find my center, my calm, my power, albeit much diminished when you look at it from the outside, but I am going to find that
Yeah.
in this environment. And
Yeah.
I am going to protect it
Yeah.
by having these rituals, as simple as they are, and I'm
Yeah.
going to commit to them, and that will see me through.
Yeah. And it was a daily thing, right? So there were some times where it's like, what did I do well? Well, I chose myself again today. Okay. Well, what did you do well today? Well, I chose myself again today. Okay. Right. It's again, you get to choose. It's your choice. And when you turn that volume down of the negativity in your mental and emotional well-being, there's so many other things that will play beautifully, right? All of a sudden now you're out on a walk and you hear the birds and the wind and the leaves rustling. You can hear that instead of the negative self-talk and the demise of what could have been. It's when turning that volume down turns up so many other things of gratitude. It's just
Nicole, that is just profound. I love how you express that about it being like a volume control,
Mhm.
and that you are choosing that, and how you can then allow yourself to hear and to see and to take in all that powerfully served you, even the most simple thing like those beautiful sounds when you go on a walk. But you are not going to allow those to be drowned out by the what ifs, the coulda, shoulda, woulda, that
Yeah.
you own that. And it does take, as you have said, that daily recommitment to it. And I'm sure there are days that it felt very heavy, but doing it daily, you were compounding that. You were
Yeah.
compounding that. And that got you through something that for so many, the majority of people who are listening to this just seems, unsurvivable, even just unimaginable, just so out of who they believe themselves to be or where they might find themselves. In what you've shared is it was a moment of making an error of judgment
Oof.
that had
Did I
profound
ever?
consequences when you were in an extremely difficult situation. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. We
Yeah.
are not our best, it's an extreme, outcome for you, but many of us have made very poor and unwise and unskillful decisions when we've been
Yeah.
at a really low point.
Yeah.
Take us to where things really then turn around for you, and this kind of like, you found yourself here, the lowest of your low, and you really took ownership, and
Yeah.
you had the programs, and you had what you have between your two ears here, like so much strength. I just love it. Tell us Tell us really about how continuing to choose yourself, to take action, how that you move beyond to create the beautiful life that you have today that is so much on the other side of where you've been, what you've
Yeah,
experienced.
well, thank you. I think for myself, and let me tell you what, I know my journey wasn't easy. I almost felt like it was, ice skating with one skate and a barefoot on brittle ice with obstacles in the way. I mean, everywhere I turned, there was an obstacle, whether it was employment, whether it was my credit, whether it was making money, whether it was, judgment of other people. But what I said about winning the day really holds true to this day. Every single morning, I set my intent, whether it's just to serve others, my
Mm,
intent of whether just to take care of me today, whether my intent
beautiful.
being taking care of my partner, or I call them relationship deposits.
I love that, relationship deposits. I'm taking that one.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where you just go, you have to also have a gratitude attitude. And
Mm,
I know that, yes, my story may resonate, and there's other women that are going to go, oh my God, she's just a thief, and I was labeled that. You're just a thief. You're someone who steals. And one of the things I did learn and in there is a crime is a crime. And I'm going to share this with you because I think it's really, really important. A crime is a crime. So yes, I stole money from a nonprofit organization that didn't belong to me. Period. The end. I'm accountable for it, and I paid the consequences for it. But I've sat across from a beautiful girlfriend at Taco Tuesday, and she loved the taco tray that her tacos came in on her plate. And after she was done with her tacos, she wiped it off and put it in her purse. It's still a crime. She stole. It's still a crime. A crime is a crime. Yes, there are levels of crime, but it is a crime. And I come to that realization like, you know what? I was caught. My past does not define me. I have a gratitude
mm,
attitude because I know there's so much more. There's worse off. There's women that are worse off. And, I am just grateful that mine wasn't extreme. My consequences were there, and I came, no one bled out. I'm alive. I have
yeah.
a heartbeat. It's not that serious, right? Yes, at the time it was, but when my point being is just that I still have a gratitude attitude every night. Every morning I wake up with my intent, and every night I ask those two questions. And the follow-up question is, what are you grateful for today? And with that opportunity, it gives me insight of, hey, you don't have to take life so seriously. You can have a lot of fun. It's still a good life. You know what I mean? But it took me working on me daily until I felt a level of comfort. But you know what? The minute I let go of winning the day is the minute I kind of just went, this is it? Is this all I've got? But if you grab a hold of win the day and have a gratitude attitude, you're always going to look around and go, wow, this is it. This is what I've got. And be grateful for that.
Yeah, it really is. I love how you beautifully express it, just the way that I mean, you're transmitting your energy to me, and I'm sure to the listeners, just because of what you create. And that is you. You're creating that all the time. You have that energetic signature, if you will, because of who you intentionally choose to be. You intentionally choose to look for the good. You
Yeah.
intentionally choose to win the day. You intentionally choose to be grateful for everything. And it doesn't have to be something that everybody else is going to applaud. You're finding it in the simple. And I think that is what is so profound. And that is how we become the richest people we know, I think, is
Absolutely. Amen, girl.
because
Yeah.
that's it. That
Yeah.
is who we want to be around, who we want to be. Definitely for me, like I like connect in to people's energy. Who are they choosing to be? How are they choosing to respond to their circumstances in life? And what are they creating through those choices? And maybe
Yeah.
share a little bit about what you have created now for yourself in your life as a result of that consistency and that profound intentional choice that you've been making for years now?
Okay, so let's talk about two things. So, personally, when I decided to choose myself, I did exactly that for several years, meaning I was single. I was dating, but not looking for a relationship. So I went ahead and traveled, and I went ahead and, took care and took time to just be with me and be good with me, be my own BFF, right? Just have fun
Yes.
spontaneously and just really devoured my time. And it felt amazing. And
Devoured my time. I just have to drink that one in.
girl, I was
Yes.
hungry. Yeah, absolutely. I totally did. And it felt amazing. And one day my girlfriend said, I don't know why you're not dating. And of course, the stigma, because if you're single, you should be dating, right?
Of
Yes,
course, apparently.
yes. So one night we did decide. I At one point I said, "Oh, I don't know. I could lose about 30 pounds before I go on to the online dating apps." And and I'm like, "You know what? I'm going to do it because if someone finds me attractive and good with who I am, then all the better, right? Because they're going to really love me when I lose 30 pounds."
Oh my God, the weight thing, a whole other discussion.
A whole nother topic for sure. But I ended up creating a little profile. And of course, you had to weed out the things. And it wasn't too long, and I met an amazing man named Jeff, and he's my partner in life and has been for 11 years. I think everybody needs a Jeff, just to throw that out there. I have never been so supported and so loved and so cherished and honored and respected and just amazing. He's just amazing. And one of the things that I look at Jeff and I just go, if I wasn't the person I was, I wouldn't have chosen him. And the reason I say that is because he was too good for me. He was so smart and so witty, and he was all the things that I actually never really looked for. I always thought, I want the hot one. I want the one that drives a fast car. I want the one that can fly me off to San Francisco for lunch, that kind of thing. But my list changed. I found his integrity amazing, his loyalty, his trust. And when you come from a relationship of infidelity, you're like, how do you build trust? And it's
Yes.
that you have to learn to trust yourself first, meaning your actions and your words should align. That's self-trust. And then when you find that in a partner, when he says, I'm going to call you Friday night at 5, my phone rang Friday night at 5. And it just built a beautiful foundation of trust. And I'm so deeply in love. And he's that nerdy kind of sexy nerd. And I see him and I just go, ah.
You so obviously are madly in love. I love it. And when you were describing, what you would go for in your younger years, it just really, like, when we don't really know ourselves, we look for other people to do things for us, to be things for us. And I think when you really own who you are, you know who you are, you own who you are, you love who you are, I think you really attract and connect into relationships like you're describing with Jeff, because that comes because of your energy and who you are,
Yeah.
that you're not the little girl looking for somebody to fix me, heal me.
Validate
You're
me. Yeah.
validate me. You're taking responsibility. It's not like we're walking around perfect, but we're taking responsibility. We want the best for the other person. We want the best for ourselves. And we
Yes.
create an environment where that's possible. When you're both fully on each other's side, it's a pretty wonderful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's myself personally. And we reside here in Chandler, Arizona, where we just soak up the vitamin D from the sun and we enjoy our family, and we just love it. Absolutely love it. Professionally, I have been a coach since 2015, and I am the person that I needed when I was going through my difficult divorce and the healing.
Mm.
And so I've created a couple programs, and I've written a book of my story, and being able to just have someone know that they are worthy of a beautiful life again, going back to that frozen state, I didn't even know the word. I didn't even understand the word worth, self-worth, self-love. I didn't understand that. And when you take someone who's frozen in pain, like I was
Yeah.
for so long, and be able to see the results of my amazing clients, it just fills my heart like it's never been felt before. And I love it. Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah.
just so powerful. And I think that's what we do in the work that we bring to the world is we become the person that we needed when we were at our most vulnerable, and when we were
Yeah.
at our lowest point, we become that person. And then the calling is really to serve from that deep place of our own inner journey and inner
Yeah.
healing. And I
Yeah.
know that, this has been such a powerful conversation. Oh, I could stay on for hours, but
I know. Thank you.
I know our listeners just will be deeply moved by your story, your energy, and want to know where they can connect with you so that they can learn more about you and get into your ecosystem. So, can you just share with the audience where they can find you?
Yeah. So my website is NicoleBanks.com. Of course, my mom spelt my name with an H. So it's Nichole Banks.com. I also have a podcast, the Nicole Banks podcast, helping divorced women heal. And then I have a book that is out, and it's how to navigate heartache, healing, and love after divorce. And of course, you can also reach me across any of my social media feeds as well.
Fantastic. And just to close us off, I wonder if you could maybe leave us with a little nugget of what does choosing yourself mean for you?
You got me. You got me emotional. Here's the thing. When you choose yourself, you love everything around you. Sometimes women will put everybody else before them. And you've heard the adage, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you truly look around the people in your circle, in your neighborhood, in your society, the people you truly love, if you truly love them, you have to love yourself first. You have to choose yourself first, because what a better person you will be serving them for and with, right? You're happier. You have more energy. You have a positive outlook. You have a positive mindset. You are just golden. And when golden touches you, it's like electric. It's shining. It just feels warm. You feel loved and protected and just so much cozy comfort. You don't want to let it go. And so when you're able to be in touch with choosing yourself and protecting your well-being, your emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual well-being, you're going to be that person automatically to everyone else you want to serve.
Oh, thank you so much, Nicole. It has been a journey of light to be with
Yay!
you.
Be
Thank you
that warm
so
light girl.
much.
Thank you so much for choosing to spend this time with me today. If you enjoy the episode and it resonated with you, please consider subscribing and share this podcast with someone you know who would benefit from the message. If you'd like to take things a step further, you'll find some free and paid resources in the show notes. And until next time, in the unlikely event that no one has told you this yet today, let me have the profound honor of reminding you that you are truly magnificent and the world is a far better and brighter place because you are here with us all. See you next time.